Blessings to you on this 24th day of Lent. Pastor Chris Haughee here, wishing you a happy St. Patrick's Day as well. We continue our journey through traumatic triumph, our journey through Lent together based on the devotionals from Traumatic Triumph, the book that I wrote. Today's is Pleasing the Lord, and the recentering activity is it's suggested to pick one from earlier in our time together. I could use this because my muscles are a little sore from exercising earlier in the week, so I'm going to do the arm squeezes, just kind of grounding myself in this time and place. I hope that your day is going well and that maybe you have some fun way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Wear a little green. I apologize. I'm not wearing any as I record this actually a little bit before St. Patrick's Day, so I hadn't thought ahead. Well, today's reading is from 1 Samuel chapter 15, verses 20 through 31. I'll be reading from the New International Reader's Version. But I did obey the Lord, Saul said. I went to do what he sent me to do. I completely destroyed the Amalekites. I brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep and cattle from what had been taken from our enemies. They took the best of what had been set apart to God. They wanted to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal. But Samuel replied, "What pleases the Lord more, burnt offerings and sacrifices, or obeying the Lord? It is better to obey than to offer a sacrifice. It is better to do what he says than to offer the fat of rams. Refusing to obey the Lord is as sinful as using evil magic. Being proud is as evil as worshiping statues of gods. You have refused to do what the Lord told you to do, so he has refused to have you as king." Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned. I've broken the Lord's command. I haven't done what you directed me to do. I was afraid of the men, so I did what they said I should do. Now I beg you, forgive my sin. Come back into town with me, so I can worship the Lord." But Samuel said to him, "I won't go back with you. You have refused to do what the Lord told you to do, so he has refused to have you as king over Israel." Samuel turned to leave, but Saul grabbed the hem of his robe and it tore. Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel away from you today. He has given it to one of your neighbors. He has given it to someone better than you. The God who is the glory of Israel does not lie. He doesn't change his mind. That's because he isn't a mere human being. If he were, he might change his mind." Saul replied, "I have sinned, but please honor me in front of the elders of my people and in front of Israel. Come back with me so I can worship the Lord, your God." So Samuel went back with Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Wow, what a story, right? Saul went from being a victorious king in battle to knowing that God had rejected him as leader. This avoidable tragedy occurred because Saul feared what his army might do if he followed God's direction and disappointed his men's expectation. He said, "I was afraid of the men, so I did what they said I should do." Now let's be clear. Not all matters before us rise to the level of importance that this occasion in Saul's life had. So to draw an immediate one-to-one correlation to any specific modern instance would be foolish. But there are, however, instances where you and I know very clearly what God's direction is in a situation, but we choose to ignore it. We know what God's will is because so much of it is clearly expressed in Scripture. And rather than do what God has directed, we acquiesce to peer pressure or perhaps our own weakness. We sin by disobeying the Lord, yet we still ask for the Lord's blessing. Maybe our disobedience isn't that big a deal. What harm is there if I just do my own thing and ask for forgiveness for those minor transgressions that I know are out of line with God's teaching? Well, I think we should be very careful with that line of thinking. God's directives come from his timeless character and from a motivation of love, kindness, and compassion expressed to his people. If there is something that the Lord has asked you to do, you've read it in the Bible, heard the twinge of your own conscience, or felt directed in the prayer, teaching, or preaching ministry of the church, what is keeping you from trusting God and obeying that direction? If it's peer pressure or a fear of what others might say, consider Saul's example. His regret for having listened to his men and their advice rather than following the Lord's command was intense. Whatever we fear losing, friends, position, respect, or more, these things the Lord can restore or replace. We can trust that following God's direction will bring us peace and fulfillment. Remember this day. It pleases God when we listen, trust, and obey the direction he gives. Other passages for contemplation are Psalm 23 again, and also Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. God bless you. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. I'll see you tomorrow.